What's good, guys? Mike Thomas, aka the Young Trishula here, and I have something very special for you guys. As many of you know, Master Duel released today on all platforms, and we spent most of the day live on Twitch. You can check us out at twitch.tv/TrishulaTTV. Go check us out. Go follow us. We stream all the time. We spent all day streaming the new Master Duel game. And we were able to make it to the top of Platinum 3 on day one with a totally free-to-play deck. And the deck that we chose to grind with was Prank Kid. When we were looking for a deck, we wanted to find two things specifically. We wanted it to be consistent, and we wanted it to be cheap. So we found that in Prank Kids. So all of the Prank Kids cards, being Fansies, Lampsies, Roxy's, Dropsies, Pandemonium, Pranks, almost the entire main deck engine is normal. And, normals are super easy to craft. Let's just scroll through my collection quickly. You guys can just see, I know it's a little bit hard with my camera, but you guys can just see there's just absolute tons of normal cards. Like, we're still in normal cards. And you can just disenchant any of these cards. You're bound to have cards that you don't want. Like, I don't know, let's look at this. Abyss Scorn. You're never using this. You're never using this card. Like, so you're bound to have tons of cards that are just free to disenchant. And so really easy to get the main deck. And what's really cool about Prank Kids is that the only main deck ultra rare, the only engine related ultra rare that you need in order to play this deck at all is Prank Kids Battle Butler. So because of that, with the whole deck pretty much just being available to us right from the start, it was a deck that I just immediately built and took to ladder. Obviously you can see there are quite a few ultra rares in my deck currently. A lot of these I was able to get just by playing with the deck on ladder, and just a lot of these ultra rares just came throughout the course of the day as we were grinding up to platinum, to high platinum with this deck. And honestly, like, there were a lot of easy card substitutions that we were able to use. We started by using cards like Raigeki, Lightning Storm, Monster Reborn, Forbidden Chalice. We even had Fogblade in the deck at one point, Phantomite Fogblade. So you can really get away with doing a lot, because honestly, just the standard normal summon at Prank Kid and ending on Battle Butler is just so strong, especially in the early ranks, that this deck on its own is going to be able to carry you. And then you have honestly 15 to 20 spaces to just put in whatever you want. So I'm going to quickly go through the deck for those who might not be familiar with Prank Kids, what it is, what it does. What some of these cards are, and we're just going to go through the deck profile, and we start out by playing 3 copies of Prank Kid Fansies, 3 copies of Prank Kids Dropsies, 3 copies of Prank Kids Lampsies, and then 2 copies of Prank Kids Roxy's. This ratio, the 11 Prank Kids, is pretty standard. You usually want to do this just because 12 is a little bit too many. Roxy's is kind of the worst one because it's the only one that requires you to have a card in your hand in order to activate it. What each of these do is they all have a similar effect. They all do something, and then they can summon a kid from your deck. So Fansies sends a Prank Kid card from your deck to the graveyard, then summons a Prank Kid. Dropsies gets you to gain 1,000 life points. Lampsies burns your opponent for 500, and Roxy's banishes a card from your hand in order to draw a card. So all really solid. And they all work. They all work by going into to the Link 1 Prank Kids Meow Mew. And this card's really strong because it allows the Prank Kid deck to just open any Prank Kid name. You normal summon it, you turn it into Meow Mew, and then you can float into all 4 names. You're able to just get a ton of resources, generate a ton of advantage off of just 1 card, and it's really strong. It's really strong. You end on a board of like 2 pops, so really, really cool cards. For the rest of the Prank Kids, I'm going to go through just the whole engine first. We played 3 copies of Prank Kids Place. Now, this is a super rare. This is the field spell. It is kind of like Magical Meltdown, if you're familiar with that. It will search any Prank Kids monster from your deck to your hand. So this is effectively 3 more copies of every single name in your deck, which is really good. But it also has some bonus effects where when you link summon, it reduces the attack of all of your opponent's monsters by 500 permanently, and when you fusion summon, it boosts all of your monsters by 500 permanently. So it's really strong. It allows you to manipulate stats and kind of get over big monsters, which is huge. You also have Prank Kid's Pranks, which is a continuous spell that allows you to discard a Prank Kid in order to summon a Prank Kid token, which is really useful. It allows you to push through and combo with the deck. But the really cool part about this card is that during the end phase, you can target 3 Prank Kids in your graveyard, except for Prank Kid's Pranks, so you can't shuffle back Pranks, and you shuffle back all 3 into the deck and draw a card. So this gives the deck a lot of recursion. It means you can never deck out, and you are constantly just getting extra draws every turn. And then finally, for the Prank Kids cards, you have Prank Kids Pandemonium. This is their fusion spell. It is a quick play spell that during the main phase you can fusion summon a Prank Kid monster from your extra deck using monsters on the hand or field as fusion material, which is really strong. Because you can set this and you can go into their boss monster being Prank Kid's Battle Butler. And for those unfamiliar, Battle Butler has the effect that you contribute it to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. This works really well with Meow Mew, which has an effect that in the graveyard you can banish it so that it does not have to tribute itself. So you can effectively send your opponent's entire field twice per turn. You can send the opponent's entire field twice per turn. This card is really, really strong. So then just to go over the utility cards that we're playing to support the Prank Kid packet, we're playing 3 Max C. This card is so mandatory. These should be probably the first 3 ultra rare cards that you craft in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. This card is just so powerful. You will win every single game that this card is activated, almost assuredly. This card's just crazy. If you don't know what it does, you send it to from your hand to the graveyard, and then every time your opponent special summons a monster, you draw a card. Really strong card. Then we have Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. This is another very common hand trap in the Yu-Gi-Oh! This is another very common hand trap that I'm sure that we'll see a lot of in the Master Duel. This card serves 2 purposes. It is a negate whenever your opponent would add a card from their deck to the hand, special summon a card from the deck, or send something to the graveyard. So just really good generic negation. But it also functions as a way to stop Max C, because if we get Max C'd, we're just going to pass our turn. So this is a really good card to counter an opponent's Max C. We also play 3 copies of Nibiru, the Primal Being. So this is a very powerful card that during the main phase, if your opponent normal or special summons 5 or more monsters in one turn, you can reveal this card to tribute everything on the field, tribute every face-up monster on the field, and then you special summon Nibiru, and you give your opponent a token equal to the stats of the tributed monster. So Nibiru is insanely strong because it allows you to stop combo decks. And Nibiru combos extremely well with cards like Max C. So if your opponent is playing a combo deck, they start comboing off, you Max C them, they just decide to combo anyway, you have a high chance of drawing into your Nibiru in order to just wipe the board and make it all for nothing. So really strong card, combos really well with Max C. We're playing 3 copies of it because Master Duel is best of 1. Because it's best of 1, you really, really desperately need to see your hand traps, and because if you play against a combo deck, you don't see your hand traps, you're going to lose. Like if you don't see Nibiru against something like Drytron or Leerlust Tri-Brigade, you're just going to lose. So having cards like these, playing them at 3 is probably just the way to go. However, if you would like to cut Nibiru, if you don't want to play 3 of it or you don't have 3 of it, you can definitely cut this card. Nibiru, you can cut it down. I would say play at least 1 of it minimum because it's a really strong card, but you could definitely get away with playing just 1 or 2. 3 might be a little bit excessive. I was just playing against a lot of combo on my ladder grind, so I played 3 of it. We also played Infinite Impermanence. This card is a lot like Effect Veiler. where it can be activated from your hand if you control no cards. So you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and get its effects. Exact same as Effect Failure. Just has a little bit of an added effect that if you have already set this card face down and activate it as a trap card, spell and trap cards in the same column as this card are negated for that turn. So you can use it to turn off your opponent's spell and trap cards if you need it. If you need to. So just a little added utility there. Finally, we play... finally, for the utility cards, we play Twin Twister, which is pretty straightforward. We discard a card, pop 2 spell traps. This is really, really useful because there's an absolute ton of Eldritch and trap decks on the ladder right now. So this card is so insane. And because it's best of one, unfortunately, this needs to be in our main deck because there is no side deck. So Twin Twister, absolutely critical. Great card. Then rounding out the main deck, we have 3 copies of Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires, just banish 10, draw 2. It's Pot of Greed. Good card. Just play it. And then we have 3 copies of Polymerization. Now, Polymerization is important for the Prank Kids deck because it allows us to play through hand traps a lot more effectively. And as there are many hand traps in this format, being a best of one format, it is very useful. But beyond that, it allows us to make the Totally Awesome. Being able to special summon Totally Awesome helps us so much to play through back row and to just ensure that, we're not getting hit with something like a Nibiru or an Ash Blossom. So really, really strong card. Really strong card. And it also means that we did not have to craft cards like Called by the Grave or Crossout Designator. So not only is this a very budget-friendly card, but it is also a really effective card. Going on to our extra deck, let's just look at the engine real quick. We have 3 Meow Mew. This is your starter. You need this card in order to start playing the game, so a really strong card. 3 Doodle Doo. This is the Link 2 of the deck, that when it is Link summoned, it adds any Prank Kid spell trap. It can also attribute itself to target 2 Prank Kids cards with different names in the graveyard and add them back to your hand. So Doodle Doo is really strong because it lets you search for either your Pandemonium or your Pranks, and then combining it with a copy of Prank Kids Fansies, you dump whichever one you don't have, either if it's Pranks or Pandemonium. You can dump the other one to your graveyard, add it back to your hand with the Doodle, and then you will be able to have your Pranks to shuffle 3 cards back, draw a card, and you have Pandemonium to fuse into a fusion monster like Battle Butler. Battle Butler being the boss monster of the deck that allows us to, as mentioned before, clear our opponent's entire field. Really strong card, combos with Meow Mew insanely well. For the next Link 2, we have Bow Wow Bark. Bow Wow Bark is a really strong card. This is the one that you usually want to end on. It is kind of the inverse of Doodle Doo, where what it does is it gives a Prank Kid monster that it points to 1,000 attack, but it has the same effect of Doodle Doo, where during the opponent's turn, you contribute it to add 2 Prank Kids with different names to your hand. So what you want to set up is you'll want to have Pranks, you'll want to have Pandemonium, and then on the opponent's turn, you're going to have a Bow Wow, and you're going to use Bow Wow to add 2 names back to your hand, and then you'll be able to have your Fansies, your Lamsies, and your Dropsies in order to make Battle Butler. So really, really powerful turn 1. For the other 2 Prank Kids fusions, you have Rocket Ride. We managed to get a Shatterfoil 1, so it looks really pretty. The Prank Kids Rocket Ride, what Rocket Ride does is it can lose 1,000 so that it can attack directly. That comes up sometimes, but not too often. But the really strong effect of it is that you contribute it in order to target 2 Prank Kids non-fusions in the graveyard. So you can't summon back the fusions, but you can summon back the Links and the monsters, and you can reborn them. However, they cannot attack that turn. So this is really good because it allows you to manage your resources, getting back into your Doodles, getting back into your Bow Wows, and just continuously adding cards back to your hand and just never running out of resources. Weather Washer is very similar. Weather Washer similarly does the same thing where you contribute it on your opponent's turn to summon 2 back from the graveyard. But what's cool about Weather Washer is that it can the monsters that it summons back cannot be destroyed by battle. So if you manage to be playing against something like Numeron, you can use Weather Washer's effect to tribute it, summon 2 back, and now they can't kill you. That has come up for me quite a bit. That's actually really strong. Of course, we play Totally Awesome for the polymerization plays, where you summon 2 copies of Pranked Dropsies out of your deck, overlay into this, and you can't get hand trapped. And this is cheaper overall than trying to play 3 copies of Crossout Designator or 2 copies of Call by the Grave, which are ultras. So cheaper and really strong. It also allows us to play 1 copy of AA Zeus, Divine Arsenal AA Zeus, which is one of probably the best cards in the entire game, and also one of the few ways that we have of dealing with wide back row boards. So one thing that you can do if you're playing against Eldritch is you can make Totally Awesome, attack with your Totally Awesome, go into AA Zeus, clear the entire board, and then you get to add back a Dropsies with your Toad when it's sent to the graveyard. So really strong interaction there. Then we play, just to finish up the extra deck, we play 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, and 1 copy of Access Code Talker. These cards are just basic utility, allowing us to get rid of back row, get rid of problematic cards, and go for game with the Access Code Talker. So this is the deck. Realistically, all you need to just start playing this deck and start winning is just the 1 copy of Battle Butler and then the Pranked cards. Everything else you can craft as you are going about it and just grinding on the Master Duel ladder. So hopefully this deck works out for you guys. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about the deck. All right. And I will see you guys next time. Happy laddering.